Okay, let's take a trip back in time. I want you to picture Los Angeles, early 1970s.
Hmm?
You've got the Sunset Strip, you've got muscle cars, and on the movie screens, Bruce Lee is becoming this just an absolute global icon.
Right. And Kung Fu fighting is on the radio everywhere.
Exactly. It feels like martial arts is having this huge, glamorous moment.
Yeah.
But if you actually stepped into a gym or an arena back then,
Oh, it was the Wild West. And I don't use that term lightly at all.
not at all, right?
Mhm.
We're talking about a time before the UFC, before weight classes were, standardized.
Before the term mixed martial arts even existed. It was raw, it was dangerous, and honestly, nobody really knew what worked and what didn't.
It was an era of just pure experimentation.
Yeah.
And today we're going to explore that gritty, hidden history through a conversation Joe Rogan had with two absolute titans of combat sports.
Benny the Jet Urquidez and William Blinky Rodriguez.
And these are names that, if you're a casual fan, you might not know them. But if you ask any pro fighter today, they will speak about them in these, hushed, reverent tones.
Oh, absolutely. Benny the Jet was an undefeated kickboxing champion. He fought everyone, everywhere for decades. And Blinky,
His brother-in-law.
his brother-in-law, a fellow fighter, a trainer, and he eventually became this massive figure in social activism.
They're pioneers. They really built the bridge that modern fighters walk across today.
And our mission for this deep dive is, I think, pretty special. We aren't just going to geek out on punches and kicks.
Although, believe me, we are. We have some insane stories.
Oh, we do. About biting chests and fighting giants, yeah.
The lighting story it's incredible. We'll get there.
But beyond the violence, this is really a story about the evolution of a sport. Specifically, that collision between American karate and Muay Thai.
And even deeper, it's a story about a tragedy and a moment of, radical forgiveness that honestly transcends fighting entirely.
It's a journey from the physical to the spiritual. But to understand where they ended up, this place of, zen and forgiveness, you have to understand the absolute chaos they started in.
Okay, so let's set the scene. They describe this era, roughly 73 to 75, as the birth of full-contact karate.
But listening to them describe it to Rogan, organized sport, is definitely not the phrase that comes to mind.
Organized assault might be closer. They tell this amazing story about going to Hawaii for a tournament in the early 70s.
Right.
And for anyone listening who watches the UFC, you know how strict it is now. You weigh in at 155 pounds, you fight someone who is 155 pounds. It's scientific.
In 1974, Hawaii. No, none of that existed. It wasn't about weight classes. It was just brackets.
You just put your name on a list.
You put your name on a list, you step into the ring, and if you win, you fight the next guy.
And Benny is a smaller guy. He's walking around at, a lean 145 pounds. He looks at this bracket and he realizes he's surrounded by absolute giants.
And this is where that lack of regulation gets really scary. There's this one anecdote about Blinky that just drives it home.
Okay.
Blinky enters the tournament, and he gets matched up with a local Hawaiian legend named Dana Goodson. Now, Blinky's a tough guy, but Dana Goodson, he's 6'3" and weighs 245 pounds.
That's a 100-pound weight difference.
Yeah.
A modern fight commission would, arrest the promoter for even suggesting that?
It's a literal David versus Goliath scenario. But here's where you see the unique dynamic between Benny and Blinky.
Right.
Benny looks at the bracket and realizes if he wins his fight and Blinky wins his fight, then Benny, at 145 pounds, has to fight the winner of Blinky's match.
So he's staring down the barrel of fighting a 245-pound monster.
Exactly. And the advice Benny gives Blinky right before the fight is just, it cracks me up every time I think about it.
What do you say?
It's so pragmatic, but so ruthless. He grabs Blinky and says, look, these people don't want to see you. They want to see me fight the giant. So, Blinky, if you can't knock him out, you better hurt him for me.
Hurt him for me? That is true brotherly love.
Go soften up the giant so I can survive the next round.
And it worked. I mean, Blinky went in there and just gave it everything he had, and it highlights the mindset of that era. They weren't fighting for points.
No. They were fighting for survival. Every fight was a problem to be solved, usually with, blunt force.
And speaking of survival instincts, that no-rules environment led to some truly bizarre moments. Benny shared a story about getting pinned on the ground. Now, you got to remember, this is before Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu came to America. Nobody knew what a guard was. Nobody knew submissions.
Right. So this opponent just tackles Benny, gets on top of him, and is just smothering him. Benny says he's getting tired, he can't breathe, and he has no technical way to get this guy off.
So the lizard brain just takes over.
Totally.
Yeah.
Benny spits out his mouthpiece and just chomps down on the guy's chest.
No way.
It's not exactly Marcus of Queensberry rule.
Well, not at all. And the guy jumps up screaming, "He bit me! He bit me!" And Benny's just shrugging like, "No, get off me then."
It sounds so barbaric now, but Benny made a really important point about context. He said, I was getting tired.
Yeah.
When there are no rules and you feel trapped, you don't think sport. You think escape. It was just a brawl.
So you have this raw, brawling style. But the real turning point, the moment this chaos started to become a science, was when they collided with the Thai fighters.
Oh, this is the big bang moment for modern striking. It absolutely was.
Because up until the mid-'70s, American fighting was karate and boxing.
Right. And think about the stance. You stand sideways, smaller target, you bounce on your toes to move in and out. It's all linear.
Straight lines.
And then Benny's brother comes to him one day and asks, hey, do you want to fight a Thai? And Benny's response is just classic.
What'd he say?
He asks, what's a Thai? He literally thought Muay Thai was the opponent's first name.
You kidding me?
Nope. He says, sure, I'll fight him. He had absolutely no idea he was agreeing to fight a practitioner of a totally different martial art, one that had been refined for hundreds of years, specifically to destroy people.
Ignorance was bliss, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
right up until the opening bell.
Right. They're at the Olympic Auditorium in L.A. Benny squares up, does his karate bounce, and then he gets kicked.
But not how he was used to.
Not a high kick. A low kick, a shin bone, right into the meat of his thigh. And Benny's description is so vivid, he said his eyes just bulged out of his head.
Wow.
He'd been kicked thousands of times, but never like that. His immediate thought was, this guy is trying to blick my leg.
Because in American karate at the time, kicking the legs was seen as dirty, right? It just wasn't done.
It wasn't done, but the Thais, they were chopping down the tree.
And that highlights the whole technical mismatch.
Completely. The Thai stance is square, they march forward, they use their shins like baseball bats. Benny realized very quickly that his bouncy sideways stance left his lead leg completely exposed.
He was serving it up on a platter for them.
And this led to a serious physical crisis for the American team. I mean, they were tough enough to win some fights on grit, but they were walking away with severe injuries.
Because they were blocking these kicks bone on bone?
Destroying their own bodies to win. Benny talks about the nerve damage. He realized that if they kept doing this, they'd all be walking with canes by the time they were 40.
They needed a solution.
And this is where we get a really cool light bulb moment of innovation. Benny realizes they need protection, so he goes to a local leather shop in Vinoise.
This is a great story of accidental invention.
He really is. He explains to this old leather worker that he needs a pad for his shin so he can train without being crippled. The worker makes the pad, but then he asks a practical question. How are we going to keep it on your leg?
Right. Laces would be too messy, take too long.
Yeah.
Metal buckles would cut you or the opponent.
So either Benny or the shop owner, they sort of remember it collaboratively, suggests using this new material that had just started showing up on the market.
Velcro.
And boom! Benny basically claims they invented the modern martial arts shin guard right there in a dusty leather shop.
And it seems so simple now. Every gym in the world has them. But that changed the whole trajectory of the sport for them.
It really did. In Thailand, they didn't use guards. Benny mentions they would just use a numbing spray lidocaine before the fight.
Or they'd kick banana trees.
Exactly, the classic martial arts movie trope. But Benny makes a really insightful point about that method. He said, sure, you can kill the nerves and feel no pain, but that damage doesn't go away.
He was interested in longevity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The shin guards allowed the Americans to train the Thai style without destroying their bodies.
It's a perfect example of adaptation, but not everyone adapted. And this brings us to one of the most famous names in sports history, and a story I had honestly never heard before this.
We need to talk about Muhammad Ali.
We do. This is a tragic cautionary tale that really validates everything Benny and Blinky were just learning.
It's 1976. Muhammad Ali is the biggest star on the planet. He travels to Japan to fight the famous wrestler, Antonio Inoki, billed as this War of the Worlds spectacle.
Boxer versus wrestler.
And Benny was there. He fought on the undercard, so he's in the locker room with Ali before the main event.
Okay.
And Benny, having just gone through this painful learning curve with leg kicks, tries to warn him. He says, Muhammad, look, this guy is a grappler. He's going to go for your legs. You have to be ready.
And Ali.
Ali is Ali. He's the greatest. He says, I'm a dancer. I'm too fast. I'll just move.
He truly believed his footwork would make him untouchable.
He was so wrong.
Drastically wrong. The fight, and if you haven't seen it, you should look it up. It's bizarre. It consisted of Inoki just lying on his back, crab walking around the ring.
And kicking Ali in the legs, over and over again, for 15 rounds.
And because Ali didn't know how to check the kick, that technique where you lift your leg to block with your shin, he just took all those kicks directly on the soft muscle.
And the aftermath sounds gruesome.
It was. Benny describes it. Ali ended up in the hospital. Massive blood clots, severe infections. They actually had to drain his legs to save them.
Wow.
There was even talk of amputation at one point, and Benny argues, and a lot of fight historians agree, that Ali's legs were never the same. His movement, that famous float like a butterfly, it was compromised for the rest of his career.
It's crazy to think that the greatest boxer of all time was dismantled by a technique that Benny and his crew had just figured out a few years prior. It proves Benny's concept of the flat-footed dancer. If you take away fighters' legs, they can't push off, they can't generate power.
They become a stationary target. And if you watch the UFC today, the calf kick is the meta. It's the dominant weapon.
It is. McGregor, Adesanya, they all use it. Benny and Blinky were dealing with this 50 years ago. They were decades ahead of the curve.
So they take all this hard-earned knowledge, the Thai techniques, the conditioning, the hard lessons from the Ali fight, and they put it into a building. They open the Jet Center in Van Nuys.
And this place becomes legendary. Joe Rogan talked about training there in 1994, and he admitted he was actually terrified to go to class.
Why? I mean, Rogan's a tough guy, a Taekwondo champion. What was so scary about a gym?
It wasn't just the physical training, it was the social environment. The Jet Center was this unique social experiment.
Oh, so?
You had world-class professional kickboxers sparring right alongside active gang members.
Wait, okay, we need to unpack that. Actual gang members.
Yeah, it was part of an outreach program Blinky was running. But the philosophy of the gym was mirroring truth.
Mirroring truth. That's a heavy concept for a kickboxing gym.
The idea is that when you are exhausted, when you're pushed to your physical limit, your mask falls off. You can't fake it when you're 3 rounds deep in sparring.
So these gang members who relied on bravado and weapons on the street
Had to strip all that away and face the truth of who they were. And Rogan said there's this intense mutual respect. It didn't matter if you were a celebrity or a guy from the street. If you worked hard, you earned your place.
And to keep everyone's ego in check, you had characters like Gene LeBell walking around.
The godfather of grappling.
A legend.
A judo legend and Hollywood stuntman. Gene was the enforcer of humility. He would choke you out, gently of course, and while you're unconscious, he'd put a pink gemch on you.
Or lipstick.
Or he'd put lipstick on you. It sends a clear message. Don't take yourself too seriously.
There's always someone who can humble you.
Always. There's another story about Gene grabbing Benny's big toe during a grapple. Just the toe. And he twisted it and applied pressure in a way that Benny said he felt the pain all the way in his forehead.
A toe submission. It's silly, but it's effective.
And it taught them that strength isn't everything. Technique, leverage, humility, that's what wins.
So you have this incredible environment of toughness, innovation, humility. But then about halfway through the conversation with Rogan, the tone just shifted completely.
Yeah.
We went from talking about leg kicks and pink shays to something much, much heavier.
This is the heart of the deep dive, really. And this is where the technical analysis has to take a backseat to just the raw humanity of Blinky Rodriguez.
Blinky's story is heartbreaking. His son was murdered. He was just a kid learning to drive the stick shift, and he was shot in a random act of gang violence.
Blinky called it a generational curse. It was the kind of violence that people in that community had just accepted as inevitable.
But Blinky refused to accept it. He channeled that grief into 36 years of social work, brokering peace treaties between rival gangs. His slogan was, "No mothers crying, no babies dying."
And that alone is an incredible legacy. But the story gets even more profound. Just recently, in 2023, Blinky gets a call.
From who?
The man who killed his son, a guy named David, was in prison and wanted to speak to him.
Wow. Now, I mean, put yourself in that position. The man who took your child away wants a meeting.
Most people would feel rage, or they would just refuse.
Blinky said yes.
He drove to the prison. He describes the whole scene to Rogan, the barbed wire, the tension in the yard, walking into the small prison chapel.
And then the killer, David, walks in.
And Blinky says he didn't even have time to think or plan what he was going to say. David looks at him and immediately asks, "Can I get a hug?"
That is just, it's an unimaginable moment.
And Blinky said it was a Holy Ghost moment. He didn't punch him, he didn't scream, he hugged him, and they both just stood there and wept.
He actually led the man to spiritual redemption right there in the prison chapel. a father ministering to his son's killer.
And Blinky dropped the line that I think sums up the entire ethos of their lives. He said, "The power of forgiveness is more powerful than my left hook."
And coming from a guy who knocks people out for a living, that just carries so much weight.
It redefines what it means to be a warrior.
Mm.
You know, they spent their youth learning how to destroy people physically. They mastered the external battle.
But in the end, they realized the internal battle, conquering your own hate, your own desire for revenge, that's the harder fight.
Benny echoed this too. He said fighting is 80% mental, 20% physical, but 99.9% spiritual. The violence is just a vehicle for self-discovery.
It's the difference between a brawler and a master. A brawler wants to hurt. A master wants to understand.
Right. And even in their 70s, these guys aren't done. They're still innovating. Benny talked about his plans for a new training facility.
And he brought up a funny detail about how they designed the original Jet Center.
Yeah, they were in a hotel room in Japan, inspiration struck, but they had no paper. So they drew the entire blueprint on toilet paper.
The toilet paper blueprint. You use what you have.
But his new innovation is actually very relevant to modern MMA fans. He wants to redesign the gloves.
Which is a huge topic right now. Eye pokes are a constant problem in the UFC because the current gloves force your fingers to curl slightly outward.
Exactly. Benny is designing a glove that covers the fingertips, almost like a mitten, but still allows for gripping. He wants to stop the car crash aspect of the sport.
He said the casuals want the car crash, the masters see the technique.
It's so true. If you remove the cheap fouls, the eye pokes, you get a purer test of skill. It's consistent with his whole philosophy: honor the sport, protect the fighter.
It's full circle. From the no-rules chaos of Hawaii, where he was biting chests, to designing safety equipment to protect the next generation.
It's a lifetime of learning.
So let's bring this all together. We've gone from the blood-soaked mats of 1970s Hawaii to the invention of shin guards. We saw how the refusal to adapt cost Muhammad Ali his legs.
We went inside the Jet Center where gang members learned humility, and finally to a prison cell where a father found the strength to forgive.
It's a powerful arc.
Yeah.
It shows that martial arts isn't really about fighting others, it's about fighting yourself. It's about discipline, resilience, and emotional control.
The tools you need to survive a kickboxing match are the same tools you need to survive tragedy.
You check the kick, you keep your balance, and you keep moving forward.
Well said.
So here's the final thought we want to leave you with today. It's inspired by Blinky Rodriguez. We all have conflicts in our lives. Maybe not life and death ones, but grudges, anger.
And if a man can stand face to face with the person who murdered his child and find the strength to hug him and forgive him to break a cycle of violence, what small grudge are you holding on to right now?
What anger is weighing you down that is actually lighter than you think? Maybe the toughest fight isn't in the ring, it's letting go.
It's something to think about.
Thanks for listening to this deep dive. We'll see you next time.